Hey, welcome. Today, we're diving into a really dramatic what-if scenario. Picture this. The U.S. military overthrows Venezuela's president. It sounds like something out of a movie, right? But we're going to break down what could happen next, specifically a pretty wild multi-billion-dollar plan for the country's oil. All right, so let's get right into it. The whole thing kicks off with this huge hypothetical announcement from President Trump. We're talking about a statement that would come right after a major military operation, and it would totally flip the script on U.S. policy towards Venezuela. So you might be wondering, how does something like this even happen? I mean, for a plan this big to even be considered, something major has to go down first. We're talking about a decisive military move. Let's break down what that could actually look like. So, in this scenario, you'd wake up to the news that U.S. forces just pulled off a huge overnight operation. The result? They've captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. And just to be clear, this isn't some subtle political maneuver. No, this is a full-on military strike. Now, an operation like this wouldn't just happen out of the blue. You'd see it coming, kind of. It would follow months of U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean. And there's a legal angle, too. It would be tied to existing drug trafficking charges against Maduro and his wife. Then, to top it all off, President Trump would announce that the U.S. is going to step in and, run the country during the transition. Okay, so the military and political pieces are in place. The regime has been toppled, so what's next? Well, the spotlight would immediately swing over to the money, to the economic heart of this whole thing. And that's a massive, massive plan for Venezuela's most valuable resource, its oil. And the vision laid out by the president would be super clear. Get American energy companies in there to pour billions into rebuilding Venezuela's completely wrecked oil infrastructure. The mission? Get the oil flowing again, start making money for the country, and hey, the companies get paid back right from the oil they produce. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the contrast here. On one hand, you've got the president with this huge, sweeping statement, run the country. But on the other hand, you've got a company like Chevron, which is already on the ground there, putting out a super cautious, corporate-sounding statement. They're talking about employee safety and following the law. I mean, it's a completely different universe from that big political announcement. So this whole plan hinges on fixing a badly broken infrastructure. But wait a second. Why is it so broken? This is a country that is literally sitting on top of the biggest pile of oil in the world. To get why, we need to do a quick history lesson on Venezuela and its oil. And this right here is the key to understanding everything. We're not talking about a little bit of oil. Venezuela is number one, first place. They have the largest proven oil reserves on the planet. The amount of potential just sitting there is, well, it's hard to even wrap your head around. Yeah, this didn't happen overnight. It's been a long, slow-motion train wreck. So back in 1976, Venezuela nationalized its oil industry. Things were actually pretty good for a while. Production peaked in the late 90s. But since then, it's been decades of really bad mismanagement that's led to a total catastrophic collapse. And this chart, wow, it really puts the scale of that collapse into perspective. I mean, look at this. They went from 3.5 million barrels a day down to just 800,000. And just to give you some context, the U.S. was pumping out almost 14 million barrels a day at the end of 2025. The drop-off is it's staggering. It's hard to believe. Okay, so let's pause for a second. We've got a military coup in the country with the most oil in the world. Your first thought has to be, oh no, gas prices are about to go to the moon, right? Well, here's the twist. Analysts are saying that because of where the global market is right now, it might actually be able to handle the shock. And the main reason, according to experts like Matt Smith from Coupler, is pretty simple. The world is basically swimming in oil right now. There's just too much of it. And that oversupply acts like a big cushion, It can absorb a big shock, even a shock like this. And you can see it in the numbers. Just last year, oil prices had their biggest drop in 5 years. We're talking down about 20%. Why? Well, because U.S. production was at an all-time high, and OPEC Plus, that's the big group of oil-producing countries, was pumping out more too. It all adds up to a market that's, well, pretty soft. But just because the global market can handle it doesn't mean things on the ground in Venezuela would be easy. Oh, no, not at all. Analysts are pointing to this huge, tangled mess of risks that could completely blow up this plan before it even gets off the ground. And a big reason why is that Venezuela isn't some empty chessboard. You've got other big players there, especially Russia and China. They have a ton of money invested in Venezuelan oil. I mean, Russia has deals locked in for another 15 years. You can see how that would make a US-led takeover, let's just say, very complicated. So when you boil it all down, the questions analysts are asking are really basic, but they're critical. Like, who's actually providing security for the oil fields? Who's calling the shots in the capital city? And maybe the most important question of all, if you're buying your oil, who do you write the check to? If you can't answer those questions, there's a huge risk that all the oil exports, except maybe Chevron's, could just stop completely. And that really leaves us with the billion-dollar question, or maybe the trillion-dollar question, that hangs over this whole thing. With US companies ready to pour in all this money, who is actually going to end up in control of the world's largest oil reserves? And what on earth would that mean for the future of Venezuela and for all of us?